Hey, it's Joey Balladonna here from Anthrax, and this is SAGAS.
Well,
Look, this is a big one.
I didn't break out and join the podcast today.
It is now time for Devil's Advocate. Same time, same place, for something. What's going on, everybody? This is Corbin, the Serpent Tongue Skipwith.
And this is Rand, the Berserker Marabou. And this is...
SAGAS.
Oh! Cheers and welcome, everybody.
Episode 26, I believe.
26, wow. We're getting up there, man.
Yeah, we're almost near 30. Fucking hell. So considering it was your choice this week, if you want to go and explain to people who don't already know what the album cover is, what do you? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, the album cover behind Corbin there is I Loved You at Your Darkest by the mighty Behemoth. Polish legends, absolute incredible artists. Like, you know, when you talk about art as art, this is art. So not only is it art for the ears, but as you can see behind Corbin, it's art for the dark orientated soul. You know, so first listens, bro, what did you think?
So, all right, first thing I want to address, at the end of the last episode, I said I was mistaken with the band. I was not. It just turns out the EP that got me into them, The Satanist, has been removed on my streaming service for some reason. So I was right before. This is the band I was thinking of, amazing band. And the EP before this, as I just said, The Satanist, so what got me into them. It's an incredible black metal band album. And I was excited for this album because I hear a lot of people talk about this album when it came out, saying that it was an extension of The Satanist, that it was like part two, that it was taking the ideas from the first into this. And, you know, because I love so much the other one, I was excited for this album. And yeah, after listening back to that and listening to this, you can definitely feel the continuation, the flow. They're trying to extend it, and you can feel that. And it's a perfect move because what made that album magical is making this album magical. And I will say this: this is something. As you all know, I'm just going to be honest on this podcast. Is the first thing I noticed is that in that first song with there are many moments on the album, but when you hear the child choir and it's, you know, saying the lyrics and saying all this blasphemous lyricism, and it kind of got to me because I was raised a Mormon, a Christian, and to this very day I feel uncomfortable saying God's name in vain. That's just me. And to hear these little kids say Jesus Christ, I'm like, oh shit! Like if I did that as a kid, I feel like I was burned in hell. Like that's just how I was raised. And so that was the first thing that grabbed me, was hearing these kids say that. It's just like I don't know. It's a weird thing with just me because of how I was raised. But yes, that's the first thing I picked up. But you know, it doesn't take away from the fact that it's an amazing addition to the album and something that's throughout the whole album. And I don't think I've ever heard child choirs in a black metal band. That's a very weird and interesting perspective to take. And yeah, so starting off with, that's the first thing I noticed, the child choir and the blasphemy lyrics. That it was all very exciting and very surreal.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, you can't talk about Behemoth without talking about blasphemy. You know, they are the kings of blasphemy. And it's crazy because, you know, it seems a little irrelevant and passé on this side of the world, like, you know, but in Poland, it's very much still like, you know, it's very, very serious. You know, Nurgle, the singer, has gotten into so much trouble, as you can well imagine, over the years, for his blasphemy, is talking down the Bible, but especially in Poland. I think he was up for charges recently. They were like, he's constantly being brought to court, like, but which I think is outrageous because, you know, free speech and all that. But over there, there's blasphemy laws, and I think he was looking facing 2 years in prison for ripping up a Bible on stage or something. So you know, like I I kind of feel like it's self-expression, it's art. And I think people getting too offended by it is, you know, it's kind of like he says himself, this is his realm. You know, this is you know, the magazines he gets interviewed on, the platforms he puts his music on, you know, is the stages he plays on. You don't have to get involved. You don't have to spend your time getting annoyed by what this man does, but it's something that he feels passionate about, and you know, it's his way of expressing his art. I mean, you could say it's done in a harmless way because you know, he's not actually going out and doing anything bad. He's just putting it down on a record. Unfortunately, it might spark off thoughts in other people or whatever. But you know, put it this way, like what you just said there a minute ago, it is really striking that you used kids singing at the start of it. I mean, it's a mega, I don't know, just like heart wrenching almost, because you know the innocence of kids, and they if they don't think something's right and they say it's right, it's for there's no background noise behind what they're saying. Their message is true, so that's what makes that really stand out. But yeah, you know me, like I'm a pagan, you know, so Thor was mentioned somewhere along the album. I'll get into that later on, but it's it's just art, and I think people should just enjoy what it is. But it's it's crazy how he steps it up every time, how the blasphemy gets more blasphemous as the albums go on. It's brilliant, like, you know. So
You know, I feel like especially for regular listeners and people who want to tune in later. Actually, no, I'll start off with this. The whole charges against them and the whole controversy he keeps piling up. You can tell just from that alone that he is, or the band, or him specifically, is the perfect poster child for Norwegian black metal. Back in the day, that's what happened to them. All those bands, the original is Mayhem. They were getting so much trouble, and Gorgoroth were getting the main guy, Gal, whatever his name is, were getting so much trouble for, you know, his views on church burnings and shit. It's just like he's the new generation of the classic black metal era, which I think I mentioned this last week or the week before. Black metal and punk are my two purest mentality subgenres. So for me, them doing this with black metal and them doing it the traditional way, the old school Norwegian 80s way, it makes me so happy inside to hear that, because to me the black metal era peaked in the Norwegian 80s. But I digress. What I was going to say before is I think it's very important for us to kind of clear the air on things. So yeah, what he's doing is art, and you know, there's nothing wrong. Like people like Marilyn Manson do it. People put goat heads on the thing. We talked artillery. He got a human body, skull for his things. It's like that's a bit much, but still, it's still art. And you know, at the end of the day, when we talk about free speech, which obviously we do every episode, you know, it would be different if he was his normal self, not touring, not playing music, and he just walked up to a church instead of ripping the Bible out. That would be a dick move. It's like, all right, dude, like, why? You know, fair enough, you get charged. That makes sense. You're doing it straight to the Christians. But, you know, to do it into music, to express yourself in entertainment, which for him is music, I think anything you say should be allowed, as long as it's for entertainment, because he's not directing it. Well, he kind of is to religion, but it's in art. It's for his own entertainment purposes, and I think there's nothing wrong with that, because he's not doing it, as you said, outside of the music. If he was doing it outside the music, then fair enough. But he's not. So yeah, when we talk about free speech, we mean in the entertainment. We're not advocating to be cunts outside of music or movies or stand-up, whatever you're doing. So yeah, that's that. But no, this album's amazing because it feels, to me, it feels so compact in a way, because there isn't too many songs on here, but each song has its own feeling, has its own kind of life inside of it. And the lead singer, he puts on an amazing job, as he did on The Satanist, with the vocals, with helping each song reach its peak with his growling vocals, his monstrous vocals, his sinister vocals, which just adds that extra creepy layer to every song. You know, he sounds like an actual devil, and obviously that's his intention, most likely. But yeah, to me, it's just a mix of the blasphemous lyrics, the child vocals, choir vocals, the sinister voice, the heavy hitting instrumentation, the grand orchestral like strings that they try to attach to it. I think it all amplifies the peak of black metal, the 80s era, but just makes it so it instead of adding that raw lo-fi aesthetic that bands like Mayhem or Carpathian Forest used to have, they've just upped the ante. They've increased the budget. They've made it sound as larger than life as you can make it, but still keep that black metal aesthetic, that raw aesthetic, but in a larger than life production. And I think that's what makes this album so good.
Yeah, it really, I totally agree with everything you say there. Before I go into any talk about the actual music side of this album, I have to talk about Nurgle's illness that he went through only 2 albums ago, as far as I know. It was 2010. He was diagnosed with leukemia, and he went through the whole chemotherapy, the whole hard slog. He was, I think it was 6 months he didn't play guitar at all, you know. And from as a guitar player, you may as well just cut off my limbs. If I can't play guitar for 6 months, like that's horrendous. Plus, he was going through, he got a bone marrow transplant, and it was just an unbelievable time for him. But then he came out with The Satanist, and The Satanist was an album that really blew up for him, absolutely skyrocketed. Like, it was critically acclaimed all over the world, and it won awards, and I think it won like a Metal Hammer Golden Gods Album of the Year, and it was mega. And then the anticipation from all of that time frame leading up to this album, you know, if you can imagine that he's he's after going through all of that stuff in life, plus during that time he was dragged in and out of court. Even when he was ill, they were throwing, you know, lawsuits left, right, and center at him, like, and he just takes it on the chin, man. The man is, you know, I have some serious admiration for this man. The band in general, you know, but he's been like a main feature in the band from the get-go. Even as far as his name, it's such a cool Nurgle. As far as I know, it's like a god of the underworld from, I think it's like Eastern sort of mythology sort of stuff. But yeah, he's mega. He's like he's a millionaire. Like, he's for a death metal musician to make it to be like, you know, double figures, a millionaire. Just, you know, it's incredible. Like, he has so many other cool things he does. He has a barber, a chain of barbers as well, which is really unusual. And then obviously they really push their merch. Their merch is some of the nicest merchandise I've seen anywhere. So, like, he's an absolute legend all round of a man, that he's able to keep all this driving force and keep that passion to be able to produce an album like this after what was their peak album, The Satanist. You know, the first single that they released on this album, God Equals God, or God Equals Dog. What a statement. Like, straight away, like, it's just, he got some amount of backlash over that, and you know, he just kept you know, going for it. And like, you know, the album in general, actually, before, I just want to mention he was in a movie as well, which is really unusual. It was called Ambassador, but it was like SS, and he was like a Nazi, like an SS soldier or whatever. And it's kind of a comedy spin on Adolf Hitler. But there's one scene where he plays guitar in it, like some classical guitar, but he's dressed up as a Nazi. He's just like a super interesting dude with like mad creativity, and it's like, you know, he's trying everything, and he's gone through hard stuff. But like, yeah, this album, 2018, 46 minutes of just amazing music. There's literally nothing I couldn't pick anything out on this album and say that's shit. I didn't like that bit. You know, it was I still haven't even picked my least favorite song, so I'm gonna have to do that as I'm going along here. Nuclear Blast, Metal Blaze combined, I think, to help release this album, which is always good. The second single was Wolves of Siberia, which is the second song on the album, which is an absolute stomping song. Like, absolutely loved it. So, you know, I just wanted to waffle about Nurgle for a few minutes, but I'll digress on that one for a minute. Like,
Well, let me start off my bit by saying this. I want to know what kind of skin products he uses, because he looks pretty good for 1,000 years.
he does, yeah,
Pretty
yeah.
fucking good. Like, for a 1,000-year-old man, he looks pretty good. For those who haven't listened to the album, track 11 is called "We Are the Next 1,000 Years," and it's a pretty ominous track because, you know, it's like he's foreshadowing, like he's an immortal demon. It's like, we are the next 1,000 years, and you know what? Going back to the whole blasphemy thing, it's like, again, I will like not to hate on any modern day black metal acts, because there are a few that I've heard that have really blew my mind. One of them I'm sure we'll cover later on. But most black metal, I feel like most black metal, although they might sound amazing, they might be unique, they might be creative, they might bring their own spin on things, which to a certain extent I won't mind, you know, as long as you keep it in the realm of black metal. But I have heard some pretty crazy ones. But my point being is that I feel like today's generation of black metal has lost that, and probably for the better in the long run, but they have lost that evilness, that intent evil feel to them. And look, that's up to the listener. If you prefer that sound without all the blasphemy and God hating and satanic references, then that's on you. But I feel like that's the one thing lost in today's generation of black metal is the sinister, like, you know, you listen to any Mayhem record, you listen to any Gorgoroth new and old record with Garlord, the first singer, you listen to any Carpathian Forest, even early Dimmu Borgir, you listen to those albums and they just feel like a group of guys that would literally kill you. Like, they sound like a bunch of murderous serial killers on a track, and it's that danger that attracted me to the genre in the first place. I remember watching a documentary on black metal, and it just blew my mind how insane they all were. Well, to me, how they seemed. And they had that vibe about them, that kind of snuff vibe, like realistic vibe about them. And this is why I love Behemoth. And from the Satanist to now, it's like he, you know, like as you said, the whole God equals dog, and like the whole, you know, like he's bringing back that danger, and he's living through it. You said it, he's living through it literally, like his consequences for his actions. And people like that, you know, you can't, how do I say this? You can't fake being something. You can't fake being a personality. And you can tell that he was definitely inspired by 80s Norwegian black metal, because he is, as I said, the poster child of that era. He does the same things. Their music sounds dangerous. I feel like the Satanists sounded a bit more evil than this one, because it was a lot more stripped down. It didn't have as many polished, not polished. It didn't have as much larger than life featuristics as the Satanist did, but still, regardless of the fact, it still sounds, both albums still sound sadistic. They sound proper evil. And I really appreciate the fact that he's gone this far to kind of revive the aesthetic of what I call the prime black metal era. And you know, it's interesting, you were mentioning all the stuff he's going through, from his medical problems to the in and out of court. I feel like, just like how Slipknot did with Iowa, I kind of feel like those raw emotions were carried on to the album, because you can hear it. In Iowa, they were all pissed off, and Corey Taylor decided, fuck it, let's make an album. And it sounded gruesome. This is the same thing. I feel like his experiences, his unfortunate circumstances, his life spiraling before him is the perfect mood to be in to make this kind of album. And you know, you can't fake being that angry. You can't fake being that tormented. And you can hear it on this album. And I think those experiences, although tragic, definitely lent its hand into making the the doomed aesthetic that we hear on this album.
Yeah, he's like, that's, you hit on his vocals there. Now it's unreal, because when he started off singing, like, I think it was 1991 when the band started, and they had a very different, direction of music. It was, even lyrically, it was more kind of heathen lyrics, like something I would write. And then it just got a bit more into the occult and, you know, blasphemy, Bible bashing stuff kind of. But it got progressively more evil. They were signed to a label at the start called Pagan Records, which sounds really cool. It's like, it's a dream kind of label for me. But yeah, just to see like the progression of his vocals from then to now, like he was just he never says he was a singer, but he was a big kind of that low end kind of vocalist naturally. But then as he progressed, and you can hear on this record here, even like Wolves of Siberia, you can hear like he's got like this feral voice at times, and I love that. I love anybody that can just like throw down some feral, like throw the technique out the window and just like raw passion and energy and aggression, and just throwing it out there. And then he does this cool thing where on a lot of tracks, and on this Wolf of Siberia bit I'm talking about, he marries it really nicely with this big death metal gutter roll kind of vocal. Like there's one lyric here, Wolves of Siberia, let it be eternally known, we fled from heavens to rape the world. Like the lyrics as well is just outrageous, and how he directs those lyrics. It's like it's almost like a preacher in a way. He's not necessarily preaching, but it's that strong and that commanding that he's not even just singing songs anymore. It's more like, I've got a message and I'm sending it out there, and I'm giving it like, the full treatment of like every single word he says. It's like from his feet to his mouth. It's just like connected. It's really to see somebody like this still at his age. I mean, he's still a young man, but he's been going since 91. Like, so like it's like to keep that passion and still keep progressing your sound all those years. It's absolutely unbelievable. Like this album, it took a lot of people by surprise, because there is a lot of it's not a straight up black metal album. It's like there's that blackened metal, almost progressive black metal with like melodic death metal stuff. They've done an awful lot, because they introduced a lot more orchestral stuff and clean stuff and acoustic guitars, and there's some really cool bits where it could sound like a Mastodon track at one part, and then it sounds like Opeth, and it's like, but it's heavy. It's really heavy. There's like one of the tracks, it's clean guitar, but like blast beats, like slightly overdriven guitar, but these mad blast beats. It's such an unusual sound. Like just the timbre of this record, the overall sonic sound is just really unique, I think. Even more so than the Satanist, even though the Satanist is like more hard hitting, and this one kind of, it brings you on a bit more of a journey, even though, like you said, there's only 12 tracks. They're not overly long songs. I think the longest song on the album is 6 minutes. Yes. So like, every track is like, 3, 4, 5 minutes, like, but they all sound like big epics. And speaking about his lyrics, not only are his lyrics unbelievably well written, they're like striking because of the content, but the way he says the lyrics, I'll get a bit more into that later. But not only are they striking lyrics, but I forget what I was going to say. Damn it. No, just the way he writes the lyrics is just, you can feel the conviction in what he's saying. Every single lyric means something deeply passionate to this man, and he doesn't overwrite. That's what I was going to say. He doesn't overwrite his lyrics. He has a message to convey, and he'll throw it down in like, you know, a verse, bridge, chorus. That's it. Like, it's not even like, and I love that. I think a lot of, especially death metal, I think a lot of artists put too many lyrics in. It's just like you're churning it out, and I think the what you're trying to convey gets lost, you know. So I think he does it absolutely perfectly. You know, there's always a nice bit at the end of the song that the song breathes as well. It's just a really open, spaced out album where you never know what to expect as well. Like, even though, you know, they're pretty direct on what they're all about for a very long time, but this just, you know, it threw you a loop. You know, it was really interesting. Like, you know, and to hear the intros coming in, like clean guitar intros, and like the kids singing at the start of that, like, you know, it's just really artistic, and it's just beautiful. Yeah, that's me. On that one.
You know, I was just gonna say, like, funny enough, the open-ended outros of the songs, how they don't end how they don't end, what's the word, conventionally. That kind of annoyed me. it didn't annoy me. Like, it wasn't a bad. It's I think annoyed me is too harsh of a word. It kind of triggered my OCD a bit, because I prefer things to be like just fluent, like, you know, just like the song ends, next one starts. It's how I was explaining the other week about how I always had an OCD with my CD player, because there's always a little bit of a stop before a song. It was never fluent. So that kind of triggered my OCD a bit, but obviously it's nothing major to talk about. But it obviously interesting choice on their part. But one thing I find interesting is the outro, because the outro, the last song, it sounded very similar to the first track. Like, they were it felt like, I guess, kind of like looping it, I guess, because, you know, making everything kind of come full circle is what I got from it, because it sounds very similar to the intro track. So interesting choice by them. I mean, I guess, you know, in that narrative, maybe they're saying, oh, you can play this album forever non-stop, and it just keeps looping because you don't know which one's the first and last track looping. But very, very interesting choice by them. And I was just thinking this whole time, with, you know, the band's longevity, the singer's longevity, one thing you got to admit, whether you like it or not, apparently Satan is one hell of a man to work with. Apparently he gives you quite a bit of energy. He helps you fight leukemia. He helps you fight law battles. He helps you stay fit and vocally fine for over 20 years. Satan is one hell of a backup guy. That's insane. I mean, fuck. So shout out to him, apparently, for helping this band do so well. But on top of that, I love the album title as well. Like, it's so mysterious. It's so tragically mysterious. Like, I loved you at your darkest. It has this nice feel to it, because someone's saying, I loved you at your darkest. Like, no matter what, even at your rock bottom, I still loved you. So it has a nice sentiment, but the way they worded it, obviously, and the album cover, it just gives this kind of real, like, kind of, the way they worded it is like a doomy kind of doom and gloom interpretation. Like, I loved you to darkness, like you changed on me, you became dark, but I loved you anyway. Instead of the positive way to look at that, like, oh, he hit rock bottom and he still loved him. But the way they worded it, yeah, it's like, you changed, you went dark, and I chose to love you anyway. Like, I don't know. It's just the way they worded it sound real twisted, and like I said, combined with the album cover, it's just a really mysterious title with so many interpretations that you can make from it. And obviously, unless it comes from the band themselves, you will never know what it means. But yeah, I just found like I said, I just love the effort they put in, from the album name to the album art to the lyrics, as you mentioned, in the songs, to the crisp and larger than life production and instrumentation and all the new bits and pieces they added to it, which, you know, to me, the two things, in my opinion, as a black metal purist, At least that's what I consider myself. The two things that I really don't mind black metal artists incorporating into their music is folk. I think black metal and folk goes really well. And orchestral elements. I think if you add those two things, because Dimmu Borgir does that. They add orchestral elements, and we saw from our third episode how well that went. So yeah, they did all the right things, and they branched out just enough to keep the purists happy, and also to maybe excite the curiosity of new listeners.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said that about the start and the end, because apparently the lyrics or the names of the song, Solve and was it Coagla or whatever, apparently that means like start and end or life and death or something. There's some kind of like connection between the last song and first song, and that goes to show how much thought goes into these guys' lyrics, songs, concepts, everything, even the artwork. Like you said, like you want to people that haven't seen it out there should, if you're interested in buying listening to the album, pick yourself up the deluxe version of the CD. It's so cool. I actually had to order it because it looks so good. It's like a book, those like matte finish kind of book, and you open it up and it's a record. It's an album shape, but it's like a book, and inside it, instead of a booklet, it's like a book, and it's some serious art. And they always they are. I'm not even sure if they're inspired by the old Catholic kind of or Christian art, or if they just take those directly. They look like they were painted like back in the day. But there's even the title of the album, like you said, I love you at your darkest. As far as I know, that was in the Bible, so that's a word of God or something like that. So it's like an extra kind of like in your face kind of thing. So I mean, when it comes to them being blasphemous and throwing digs, at all of that, they do it in spades, and they do it really clever, even under the radar. Solve is just one of those tracks when it kicks off, with all the organs, and it's this album musically. That's something I haven't hit on yet. Musically, it's inspiring. Like, it's absolutely perfectly produced. Like, it's a work of art. At most metal bands, the lyrics get kind of squashed down, especially black metal, because they're either less clear or the message isn't as important to really read into. But the stuff that Nurgle does, like, he has a spotlight on him all the time. Like, sure, he done like The Voice. I don't know if you have like those singing shows like Pop Idol or whatever. The Voice was one that they ran here and in England, and I think they done one in Poland. And he was actually one of the what would you say, the hosts kind of, or the judges. And his artist actually won. But there was all these people like, oh, get him off. Like, he shouldn't be on the show. He's Satanist and all this kind of stuff. I just thought it was brilliant. Like, just to see him sitting there, because the funny thing is that he is mega talented as a musician. So he has more right to be there than any of the rest of us. You know what I mean? Like, because, he has such a striking presence when he's in character, his stage persona. His lyrics are so grand and so out of this world that everybody forgets that he is a really technically good musician. Like, he's a phenomenal guitar player as well. He has mega technique in his vocals. Like, some of the vocals on this album and previous albums are the biggest albums that are vocals that you'd hear. It's just outrageous. But there's so much controversy wrapped around this genre, and especially these guys, because of where they're located. I think in Poland, they're dead against them. Like, he pays a lot of taxes in Poland, right? And he supports the country. If they just protected him a little bit more, he'd be grand, because like, all he's really doing is he's a good dude and he looks after people and he's just trying to convey his art, like it's crazy in this day and age, that you still get stick over that. But the professional ratings really speak for themselves. Like this, Metal Hammer gave it a 9.5 out of 10. Metal Injection gave it a 7 out of 10. Wall of Sound gave it a perfect 10 out of 10. They said it's the most perfect album that they've ever heard, and I'm pretty inclined to agree. It's amazing stuff. The Guardian, even the Guardian is like a newspaper. Like they gave him 4 out of 5, and my favorite Consequence of Sound gave it an A. Like they do it like A, B, C, D. They should have given it an A plus, in fairness. Like, but I like that the way they do it, an A. And it was nominated for a Kerrang Award. It's just like even the Australian chart, it got to number 34 in the Australian chart, man. So like in Finland and Poland, obviously it does better in Finland, Poland, Germany. Like I think it was 7, and Germany, Finland gave it a 4. Actually, no, 7. Poland gave it a 4. So his own people that are calling them this blasphemous, whatever, put him number 4 in the charts, like, and the UK, as much as obviously the UK is a big market for rock and metal, but they went to number 2 in the charts there. I'd be interested to know what America think. I never really looked into that side of things, but to reach the rock and metal charts number 2 in the UK, it's no joke, like, so this is an absolute triumph of an album by some really hard-working dudes who really honed their craft to perfection. Even their costumes. Somebody was joking, saying, "Oh, you're why don't you give the Ghost back their costumes and stuff?" And it's like, first of all, they're around, decades longer, and as well as that, they're not spending like, I think Ghost spend like 150,000 on costumes alone for a fucking tour, and and he's like, "Oh, we'll make them for like 1,000." He just throw it together, like, and they look unbelievable. Like the stage get up, when you watch them playing live, they just have this huge presence, and it's really inspiring, really inspiring. Like we're actually talking about getting into the more theatrical side of things ourselves, but if only to have as much of a impact as these guys. Like it's unreal. Like, I'm not into blasphemy as such. I'm more into pushing my beliefs and my faith as sing about them. But I've always been a Slayer fan. You can't be a Slayer fan without adhering to that a little bit, and I wouldn't these wouldn't be my beliefs, but just as an artistic form, and as how it's being produced and laid out there, you literally can't get much better than the Behemoth, man.
Well, I guess you could say you could say that the lead singer is looking back at his country, his home country, and going, "I loved you at your darkest."
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I think he might. He'll make it. He'll make an impact eventually. Something. He'll make some kind of stand or something, and it will make. He'll actually make a difference in his country. Hopefully for good. I say it will.
He'll make a change. He'll make a change to the country. We read tomorrow's news. 10 churches burnt down.
Yeah, no, don't do that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but
I made a change. Oh, can you imagine? All right, so our segment, the Tales of Rune. Who do we shout out? No, I don't know. I was trying to try. So who are you going to shout out first, or sponsor?
Today, who am I going to shout out first? Well, I gave Black Star a lovely shout out last week. This week, I would like to shout out to...
Wow. How sad.
Creative music. I know, I was trying to hold off. Creative music. because I didn't want to talk about myself too much, but Crave Music are an absolutely incredible company that have hooked us up big time with our tour with Vader, who are friends with Behemoth. Peter and Nurgle are mates, as far as I'm aware, and we're heading away in September on this mega tour with them and another Polish mega band, Hate, and I cannot wait. But wouldn't be possible without obviously my management, my label, Split Screen, and United Music Mafia. But Creative Music, our Tom from Creative Music, thank you so much. And they're a company that have done amazing things and will continue to do amazing things. So any support you can do to help support their shows or any of their content, please go and do that, because they've made my dreams come true. So yeah, that's what I'll do this week.
All right, so the sponsors for this week. I'm going to start by doing me WordPress account. I did me like Irish. Me Irish? No. I don't know why I said me. My WordPress account. So as of late, if you guys aren't aware, if there are any artists listening to this, I'm pretty sure I haven't even let you know yet. Not that it matters, but so because I've been so busy with the podcast, so busy with interviews, which are just piling up, so busy with other music shit, I don't have that much time anymore for reviews. So because of that, I have decided to start charging $10 per review. That way, at least the time I prioritize to make reviews, I'll get something out of it. And, because I really don't have that much time anymore. Plus, trying to balance a relationship, balance a personal life. I've got a full-time job outside of this. This is in my spare time, all this. So it's getting a bit much. So yeah, any reviews from now on, $10 fee, but don't worry, the quality is not going to go down. Obviously, it's still the best reviews you're going to get. So if you're still open to getting one, contact me at serpenttongue94@wordpress.com. Click the contact, and I'll be here. So Legion of Skanks, not much to be said there. I'm not going to make it this long this time, but if you go to Gas Digital Network, you'll find a platform with over, I think, 20 shows, all with their own personal topics and their own style. There's a guy who does a spook show where every Friday midnight he watches a live horror movie with his fans. Pretty cool idea. There's a guy who does Rick and Morty recaps. I haven't watched that one yet. Zach Wilde has his own podcast. There's wrestling podcasts, and obviously the Legion of Skanks. 3 different comedians, 3 best friends talking about inappropriate shit just because they can. Go check all of them out. If Legion of Skanks isn't your thing, there is plenty of other shows that are a lot less offensive but equally as funny. So go check it out. Gas Digital Network. Go subscribe today, and I guarantee you won't regret it. I want to shout out John Sorrell at Morgrot. So John Sorrell is I think he's a publicist who makes his own physical issues Morgrot. Exciting news coming with that later on. I've done some reviews for him. I'm still doing them to this day. Amazing guy. He does, his physical issues are about horror, art, and music. And metal specifically. He has real heavy taste buds for his music. So if you're into the real heavy shit, definitely check him out on Facebook. Morg, which is MORGUE, Rot, ROT. Go subscribe, go follow him, and make sure you purchase the physical issues when they come out, because they're one of a kind, and I bet you won't get them anywhere else. And last but not least, Zach Moonshine, amazing PR guy, the king of the PR. If you're a metal or a rock artist, you really can't go anywhere else. He's such an incredible workhorse. He puts so many people to shame, and he's the best of the best. And what he's built for himself, what him and his wife, I believe, have built for themselves, is just unreal. If you need any testimonials, Ren's your guy. I'm sure he'll tell you what his experience was like, which I'm sure was a positive one. And if you want to contact him, the link will be in the description below for email. But for those who, for whatever reason, need it, it's Zach, ZACH, at Metal Devastation Radio, one word.com, and see what he can do for you.
Right. Big shout out to Zach and his good lady, Raven. She calls herself on Facebook. Just an amazing work. I'm gonna hit them up soon with it for another campaign, I think, very soon. But yeah, happy days. So
Time for and I'm sure Behemoth knows this guy very well. The Devil's Advocate.
All right.
So apparently Stevie Wonder's a Satanist now. Little harmonica.
I knew it. I always knew he was.
That's how he became blind. Soul to soul. All right. So I don't know how this started, but somehow I always go first. So
yeah,
here I am going first. So
natural.
My favorite track of the album is the first track, Solve. It's interesting because I just think, the initial impact of, like I said at the very start, the whole children's choir and them saying blasphemous things and me being triggered to my childhood and how I'll never say that. To this day, I still don't say that. The impact, just a perfect intro for an album. And even though it's very similar to the outro, I think the intro has a lot more, that little bit more impact to it. And it's just, I guess it stuck with me more in my memory because it's the first song, and it's very important for first songs to leave a lasting impression. Which, by the way, the first song on your new album is unreal because halfway through you get that like folky instruments, which is mind blowing. But yeah, so in the same fashion, intros need a bang, and this one was a banger. It definitely solved the problem for the intro track. Yeah, so that's why I love that. Now, my most hated track, and this is the thing, a too common problem here on SAGAS is we just end up nitpicking half the time because it's 90% of the time we're nitpicking on tracks because, as you even said, you're struggling to find your worst track. So this is another case of it. It's going to be impossible because no song is bad. It's just at the point where Devil's Advocate, we have to choose and nitpick what we don't like. So for me, the nitpicking ends with track number 9, Have a Hedge Panacrata. I know I fucked that up, but track number 9, aka the longest song on the album, 6 minutes and 4 seconds. Look, the only thing bad I can say about it is I don't necessarily think it needed that length. It wasn't a bad song, but it didn't fulfill the engagement factor for the whole 6 minutes. I felt like it could be maybe a 4-minute track and do just as well. But obviously at this point, it's just nitpicking. So yeah, that's why I chose that as my least favorite track.
Interesting, because I'm 50-50 with you on this week. I had the same least favorite track number 9, which I won't try and pronounce either. It's an excellent slow burner intro, and the lyrics are just straight off the bat. The "O Father, who art in hell, unhallowed be thy name." So it's it's taken their Christian prayer or Catholic prayer, and it's just tearing it apart. It's crazy. It's the darkest song on the album, I felt as well, and I think that's what maybe took it into the direction of being my least favorite. I mean, I do really like it. Like we said, like there's some really intense bits in this song. There's actually one part of this song which I wanted to point out. I'm more on a producer side of things. There's a layer of distorted guitars, overdriven guitars, acoustic guitars, and clean guitars, all on top of each other, like just sandwiched on top of each other, and they sound unreal. Like it's like it should not work. It's crazy. It's like a real almost no in a way. They're just like sandwiched, and it sounds excellent. Like that's the thing. This album, production wise, it's just perfect. So that would be my least favorite because it gets a little bit too intense for me. It's it's great, but it's very dark. It's a dark song. It's the darkest song I think on the album. Solve is a brilliant opening track. It's interesting how the same lyrics in Solve, the kids chorus bit is in God Equals Dog. The what's the lyrics? Living God, I shall not forgive. Jesus Christ, I will not forgive thee. That's in the say, I think it's a bridge or a chorus in God Equals Dog towards the end. But Nurgle is singing it like question answer with the kids, and to hear his voice, and at one stage, then it's like they're singing together, like harmonizing almost together, and it sounds unreal to hear his voice with a kids choir. It's so evil, it's so like wrong, but it's brilliant. Like sonically, just it sounds delicious. You know, that was a contender of mine. But actually, before I go on to that, I was going to say it is interesting that Solve goes into Dog, God of Dog. Why can't I say that title right? God Equals Dog. That's the whole show. I've been trying to say that bloody name. It's just weird that they threw Wolves of Siberia in between them. But weird is good to me. Like a lot of people would be like, no, because the lyrics are the same. It should have gone from Solve to God Equals God. Dog equals God. Oh, fuck off. Anyway, so oh man, I wouldn't mind. It's 3 letters in each bloody word. Anyway, so yeah, it is interesting. I think it's more interesting than weird. Other people think it's weird that they should have gone straight to that. Anyway, I think it's cool. It's unusual that they went against what the normal order of things should have been. So I digress on all of that, and I go on to my favorite song, Sabbath Matter, number 8. It's just an absolutely amazing song. The delivery of the lyrics is amazing. You know, a lot of the lyrics on this album, I tend to not read too much into lyrics when I'm doing the podcast, because I'd be there all day, you know, because I'm a lyricist and it's a big thing, a big part of my life. But you can't ignore the lyrics, and not only the way they're delivered and the lyrical way that they're, you know, sang, the message behind them. There's so much depth. So say with the sound of trumpets, with the pounding of demon drums. What a cool lyric. Like, it's just so cool. And then he goes on to say, love me orgasmically, fuck me ecstatically. So it's like, this dude is not afraid to say anything. He will say whatever he wants to say, but he'll write it really cleverly. There's one of my favorite parts in the whole album is when it kicks into the I think it's the chorus on this track, with the roaring thunder, with the blinding lights, come to be honored, come to be despised. And it's done with this. This song gives me like a Mastodon kind of vibe off a lot of bits, which like a much darker version. But that progressive guitar work, the you know, the there's another bit here. Blessed be the destroyer, for she's the creator. That is absolutely incredible, the way it's sang on this song. It's just, you know, there's a bitching solo on it. I didn't think I'd get a bitching in there on this one, but there is a bitching solo on this. It's otherworldly. It's just a huge immersive song. You know, this is a song that deserves for you to just sit down with headphones and just get lost in the song. You know, it's progressive black metal is the only way I can describe this song. It's killer. It's absolutely brilliant, and hats off to the boys. God, dog.
And just like he doesn't care about saying anything he wants, neither do I. And I think it's funny, me picturing it. Can you imagine if the reason Poland hated him so much is because he was secretly a pedophile with the kids? I had to let that out. Just joking. You're a great guy, I'm sure. Just funny image. Well, that was today's episode.
That was a very, very good episode. I enjoyed talking about them very much. I was dying to talk about them for ages, but like, you know, there's so much to talk about. They have a new album coming out. They actually have a new single already out, which I think was like a double single. So I recommend everybody goes check that out. But yeah, they are an incredible band with an album coming out in September. New album coming out in September. So we might even have to have a little chat about that one. You know, I couldn't wait any longer. I'd waited months to talk about Behemoth. So I was like, I'm not waiting until September. And anyway, September, I'll be in a different country, hanging out with Nurgle's mate, hopefully, Peter.
Nice. Nice.
Just going to keep throwing that out there. Happy days. So that's another episode.
Unlike Useless Run over here, I have my next album decided. Actually, no, last week you had yours already. Yeah.
First time in a long time.
Yeah, first time ever.
Yeah, I'll take that.
But so this week, next week, we'll be talking to a indie local band, a up and coming band is the better word. A band that really a band who asked for a review a while back before I started charging, and a band that blew me away. There's just a lot of good things to talk about it, and a great guy who I talk to every now and then still on Facebook. And I figured, why not? It's good every now and then to give bands that are trying to make it big a platform, and what better place to do it than SAGAS? So hopefully he'll be able to join us live. But regardless, we'll be talking about it anyway, and that will be the band Basalt Shrine and their 2022 album From Fiery Tongues.
Nice.
So I will send you the I'll get him to give you a Bandcamp link.
Sweet.
Because he gave me one, so I'll give you one. Yeah, hopefully he can be our latest live guest, and we can talk the album with him. So that'll be fun.
Boom.
Well, that's good. Good episode, and as we always say here on SAGAS, until next time, same time, same place, or something.
Peace.